What is up? Yeah, I watched Get Out for the first time, and it wasn't good. Directed by Jordan Peele, and starring Daniel Kaluuya, Catherine Keener, that chick from Girls, and written by Jordan Peele. This movie took the world by storm in early 2017, and it actually won Best Original Screenplay, I think, at the Academy Awards that year, which is ridiculous. That's absolute nonsense. It also has subsequently made many best of lists, like best horror movies of all time. I've seen it on many of those lists, but I was saving it because I absolutely love horror movies. And good horror movies, it's pretty much the most difficult genre to get right. So there are certain horror movies that I've saved that I have been waiting to watch and looking forward to for years in some cases. For example, The Babadook or The Lighthouse. I've been saving those movies for a very long time. And like I said, when you do horror right, it can be just some of the most fun you can have in cinema. So I try to hold on to those. But Get Out was another one on the list because it got such rave reviews and was supposed to be this tour de force when it comes to writing. So I had saved it and I was looking forward to it. And then just recently I thought, okay, I'm going to watch it. It's a good time to do it. I'm finally going to get to see this thing. And it turned out pretty terrible. It's actually pretty terribly written. Now, I could start with the good things. We could start with the good things. Good thing number one, Jordan Peele is incredibly talented. And I have seen one of his other movies. I think it's called Nope. And I can see his abilities, his talents growing within the medium. That one's much more complex, and there's a lot more going on with that one than this one, and a lot of the writing pitfalls that he falls into in this one. He doesn't have the same amateurish behavior in Nope. And I haven't seen Us. I'll watch it at some point. And that's the thing. Jordan Peele, I will 100% watch every movie the guy directs. At the very least, he's trying to do something. He's trying to do something interesting. So he gets all the credit in the world for that, and I will definitely, without seeing a trailer or who's in it or anything, I'll watch all the movies that he makes, period. Another good thing, Daniel Kaluuya is fantastic. He's a really, really good actor. He's incredibly charismatic. He's funny. I think that you could pretty much put him into any kind of role, and he's going to nail it. I know he was also in Sicario, and he was great in that, but he had more of a backup role. But he was still great. And in this, he's excellent. Even though the writing is pretty terrible in general, he does a really, really good job of playing this character, embodying the character. He has really great commitment to his acting. There were certain elements of things that happened within the story that were fantastic, like his representation of those things, which would be very difficult. He does it really, really well. So he's a great actor. No slight to him. And another thing that was good, it looks great. It looks fantastic. You can absolutely see that there's a budding talent there when it comes to Jordan Peele as a director. It looks really good. I can't remember any frames that didn't make sense to me, or colors, or scene blocking and that kind of stuff. I'm sure if I got nitpicky, I could find stuff that I don't like about it. But overall, the experience and the feel of how it looked, it felt good. And the one scene, the big scene, really, there was simplicity to it, and it looked really good. It was really well done. So going into this, I didn't know anything about it. I'd only seen some battle rap bars about some of the things that happened. Like at one point, one rapper said something about, I thought I saw a friendly face, or he thought he saw a friendly face, and then I gripped the pound, and it was supposed to be a Get Out bar. I didn't know what it meant until I actually saw the movie, because I didn't watch the trailer. A lot of people were saying that the trailer gives way too much away, and so that really undermined the impact of the movie. But luckily, I hadn't watched the trailer, so I didn't know anything that was coming. And I appreciated that. I appreciated that a lot. I just wish that the writing was better. So moving into, I guess, spoiler territory here for anybody who hasn't seen it. Like I said, writing-wise, it really was pretty much just characters saying the same thing over and over again for the entire runtime. It has the same emotional and intellectual weight every single time they say something like that, and it doesn't mean anything in the grander scheme. And this is just amateurish writing. This is just somebody who doesn't really understand how to write characters or how to advance plots or make things more intricate. It's just somebody who had an idea about what they're doing, and so they put it on paper and they just let it happen without really considering all the rest of the elements. What I mean is, it's all the liberal microaggression talk where they would say something that is racist in some way to the main character. And there are ideas behind it that are great, that are at least interesting, that could be a source of something interesting, in the fact that there's an overt racism that somebody could be using, just explicitly saying all these horrible things to somebody. And then there's the more subtle, not especially subtle, but still more subtle, racism that was being exhibited in the movie, where you treat somebody differently just based on their skin color. And so it is that affluent white, especially liberal affect of just treating somebody differently based on skin color. Now, this would have been targeted more at old-fashioned, right of center kinds of people. But either way, whatever the politics of it is something that is a legitimate thing to take issue with. Although the entire movie is really a persecution fantasy that is really over the top and ridiculous. But that's what movies are. It's like you have to exaggerate. When it comes to jokes or when it comes to movies, you're exaggerating. That's the point. So like I said, virtually every ounce of dialogue when there are two characters who have disparate interests and they're talking to each other, virtually every bit of dialogue is just them saying something that is awkwardly racist, that is just saying something about black people in general, that they're making a generalization about them. And it's mildly offensive and not something that people should be saying. And there's a reason for it in the grand scheme of the movie, of course, but still, it's one of those things where it doesn't advance any character or any plot element throughout the entire movie. It's one thing if that happened when they first met. And so there's that exchange, that back and forth. It's really awkward that the father and the mother are saying things that are questionable when it comes to etiquette. And so you get that initial thrust of, okay, I see what's going on here and I see what's happening. And then after that, you go into character development and character work and more complex plot stuff and all that. But instead of that, it was just doing the same thing over and over and over and over again with virtually every single character that's in the movie except for the main character and his girlfriend. Those are the only two people who weren't doing that, although she was emphasizing his race in every interaction too. So it's the Tina Fey racism. It's you have to point out the fact that somebody's black in some way. They can't just be black and that just be a characteristic of theirs and you move on to something else. So, like I said, just dialogue-wise and character-wise and plot-wise, it was so boring. It was so annoyingly boring to see that just happen over and over again because it has the exact same content and effect every single time. That's the only thing that it's doing. Is look how awkward these white people are. That's the only thing that it's doing. So this was definitely flirting with a complete disinterest in plotting and character altogether, just so that it could deliver its thematic message, which generally and structurally, it's not a bad thematic message. It's kind of interesting, but the writing is just, the writer was not capable enough of delivering that in a way that showed understanding and maturity when it comes to storytelling. So, I don't know, everybody should be familiar with this. I'm going to spoil it at this point. Everybody should be familiar with the general plot of the thing. But what happens is Daniel's character he has a white girlfriend and she wants to take him to meet her parents. And her parents are well-to-do and they're in a small town. And so there are questions about how accepting they're going to be that he's black and they're together. Nowadays it seems antiquated to have these discussions at all, but still, that's what it was. And it made sense at the time. And they also spoiled a lot of it in the beginning of the movie where some people just go and grab this one guy, they just take him, and then he shows up later, and he's, had the procedure done, and so he shows up later, which, I don't know, there's something goofy about that, too. There's, anybody who's seen Midsommar, there's an aspect of that goes along the same lines, but, so apparently they have different methods for trying to get black people to the area so they could perform this procedure on them. And one of the methods is the brother who's a little crazy, and I mean, they're all crazy, but it's the brother who's a little crazy, and he just goes and physically takes people and brings them back. And then there's the sister who, as you, later find out, she seduces them and brings them back. Sorry I didn't go through the plot in a more dynamic and interesting way so that we had the revelations as we go along. But, I'm sure most people have seen this by now. So anyway, he gets there and he's noticing weird things about the help who are all black and they seem strange. They're not acting black, at least according to his assessment. They're weird and they're not they're not bumping. He tries to shake his hand instead of bumping and they're not responding normally. He asks one of the caretakers of the house or maids. He says something bad about white people in front of her, and then she almost has an aneurysm because she's trying to figure out what her response to that comment should be, because they're all brainwashed in a particular way, it seems. And then there's another guy who he's like chopping wood, and he goes and talks to him, and there's this weird interaction that they have. So anyway, you have that, and like I said, there are 3 of those characters, and they all have the same effect and the same significance, except for one of them says a little bit more about what's going on, but it's very little bit more, and it's just implied. But all of those characters have the same significance of, okay, there's something weird going on. Great, thanks. It's just like all the comments by every white character. It has all the same significance. So at one point, he goes out for a smoke, some weird stuff happens, he runs into his girlfriend's mother, and the mother is a psychologist and hypnotizes him ostensibly so she can get him to stop smoking. The scene's excellent, there's nothing to fault with the scene, it's well acted between both characters, it looks great. The effects when what is it? The comment about it, that he falls into the floor or something. I can't remember. It was actually, that part was an interesting way to phrase it, but I can't remember what it was. But Catherine Keener does a very good job of being menacing and seeming like this corrupted matriarch who does all these weird things. But he goes and plummets into the floor. He's in the dark place or the sunken place or whatever it's called. And then from there, you have some vector to be able to smuggle in weird stuff going on after that, not being sure about what it is. And that's another thing, is that there is very little, there was zero tension throughout the thing. Obviously, it wasn't scary at all. You would kind of hope that it would be, but there was zero tension throughout the whole movie. And a lot of that can be put down to the fact that all the characters are so cartoonish. If they had some characteristics, like say you play with that idea of them having some interesting or good characteristics, and they're nice about this, nice about that, rather than just having one note, every single character having one note, if there were some more complexities about their character, then it would have increased tension. It would have built some kind of tension. And there would have been something to hold on to and be interested in as the story went along. But they were all cartoonish. Like I said, it's ridiculous that this won Best Original Screenplay, and I certainly know why this was so well reviewed and heralded and is on every list now. And that has a lot more to do with politics. This was the shift. I looked up the release date, and it was February of 2017. So it was right after the inauguration. There's no way on earth that, because that's when the shift happened, where it went from primarily merit-based determinations of, the quality of movies to primarily identity-based determinations. And so that's why this got so many accolades all over the place, notwithstanding how not so great it is. So, okay, he gets hypnotized, and there's the sound, too, when she's just running the spoon around the coffee cup or the teacup, and you have that sound consistently to hypnotize him. That was excellent. I loved that little addition, and the way that looked and how that was handled. That was all great. But now he's hypnotized, and so he's trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and is he in danger, because he just wakes up in the bed. And things get a little weirder. And there's another aspect of, he just has this friend who's back home, and he just calls him at regular intervals, and they have conversations about what's going on. And there should have been a much better way to incorporate this friend into the plot, rather than just a generic, I call him sometimes, and then he tells me things are weird, and then gives me a revelation later about what's going on. That's just not good writing. But at a certain point, the friend tells him or he takes a picture of the one guy who was taken in the beginning and sends it to his friend. And so his friend says, that's the guy who's been missing. He's been missing for like months, and we didn't know where he went. And the main character says, oh my gosh, that's right. That's why I thought I knew that guy. And so now he wants to get out of there. And in the midst of trying to get out of there, he stumbles upon, just happens to, stumble upon this box. And I don't like this reveal. Again, just the complete lack of tension. So he stumbles upon this box where he finds this picture of his girlfriend with all the other black people who were working there. So he knows now that she actually had seduced everybody to bring them here, and so he can't trust her. And then they do this thing. Again, it's just not good writing. They do this thing where he's saying, okay, give me the keys, after he has learned this revelation. And she's like, I'm looking for the keys, I can't find him. And they keep doing that over and over again. The parents and the brothers stop him from leaving, and then he keeps asking her, hey, you gonna give me the keys? And he's an excellent actor, by the way. Did I say that? He does an excellent job through all of this. It was honestly worth the price of admission just to watch him act, just in general. So I appreciate that. But she's like, oh, I can't find him. And then she shifts and is like, oh, here are the keys. You know I can't give them to you. Zero tension. We already knew. If we didn't know yet, if he hadn't found that thing of the pictures, then there would have been some reason to feel tense about why she can't find the keys. And there could have been something about, him relying on her for something, and then she turns it around. But we already knew, so that's just bad writing, again. So he gets, caught and taken to this room. And again, the set design's nice. And it's interesting that it has this classical look to it and all that. Then he watches on a TV where a guy talks about how he's telling him what's going on and what's going to happen. And at first I was annoyed because like, why would they have to tell him anything? But then they took care of that because they said that it actually takes better if the person accepts it ahead of time before the procedure. So at least they thought of that. So the guy on the TV tells him that I need your body. I need your eyes. He was blind. I need your eyes. So they're going to put my brain in your body. And thanks for that. That's great. We can go ahead and move on from here. Hopefully we can be friends, even though, you're going to be dead. and then they just go on from there. Then the son is supposed to go in there and retrieve his body. They're in the middle of the procedure. They already take the brain out of the other guy, and they need to swap it, or they already took the top of the head off, and they need to swap it now into this body. And then I did like how he got out of this. It was clever. He digs into the chair, and because it's the sound of the spoon on the coffee cup, that's the thing that hypnotizes him. So he takes some of the stuff out of the chair and puts it in his ears without them realizing. And then so the sound goes off and he pretends like he falls asleep again. But when the guy comes in there to get him, then he attacks him and that's that. So and then he pulls the stuff out of his ears. Clever. It was a clever way to do it. So we find out, the huge deal is, there was like an auction earlier where all of the people were bidding on buying Daniel's character. And this is what had happened throughout the course of this thing. But, a lot of this doesn't make sense. And, you can correct me on the mechanics of what's going on here if I just missed some stuff, because I could have. Because it was just annoying me that the writing was so bad. So I could have just missed some mechanical things about the way all this works. But if they are swapping brains out, why are they making the results slaves? Why are they making them do all the stuff around the house, like be a maid and chop the wood and the like, if they're actually the white people, the affluent white people who took over the bodies? That doesn't make any sense. And why would they do that in front of a guy they're trying to make who's black, who they're trying to make feel comfortable? Why wouldn't they just have black people around the area who are secretly the white people? They have the white people brains. If they just live there, they have their own houses and they're fine and have normal relationships and they're not part of the help, then wouldn't that make him more comfortable with the situation and that would help their cause? So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it also doesn't make sense that later in the movie, when he's trying to flee, he accidentally hits the maid character. And he's concerned about this and picks her up and puts her in the car. But wouldn't this be the maid with just a random white person's brain that you don't know? So who are you helping? What would be the point of helping that? And it also doesn't make a whole lot of sense that when he takes a picture, it's supposed to be that when he takes a picture, it lets whoever the black person was, they get like a moment of control again. And so this is how he saves himself and he just runs around killing everybody once he gets out of there. But this is how he saves himself and has the wood chopping black guy kill his girlfriend and now ex-girlfriend. You're not really getting over this whole situation in counseling. But that's how he gets out of it. But if they had their brain replaced, why the hell would taking a picture or having a flash reinvigorate whatever's not there? Are they trying to say that there's some residual personality that's in there, despite not having the brain that just triggers whenever there's a flash? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyway, even notwithstanding any plot holes or goofiness about that, or why the black people they'd pretend that they were slave labor, even though they're actually members of the community who bought those bodies. Leaving all that aside, it was just the writing was bad. It was not well done. It didn't understand how to develop character or create a complex system of interacting characters or use plot or create culture or anything like that. It was just extremely, extremely one note. And that was the most frustrating thing about watching the movie. So anyway, like I said, it was definitely heralded as a rebuke of the election that happened in 2016, the inauguration that happened in 2017. It was definitely that. And so it's trying to say, oh, look, we're good people because we like this thing that was created by a black person. It does not deserve the accolades that it receives. Jordan Peele, however, should get all the money that he needs to make a movie for the rest of his life because he actually is a really creative guy. He's extremely funny, one of the funniest guys on the planet. He has a great visual style, visual sense, and his writing has matured significantly just over a couple of movies that he's done. I mean, I really think with Nope, it was undercooked in the way that he was trying to go through the themes and consider those. And I don't think he understands character very well yet, but it was still significantly better. And all of his movies, including this one, including Get Out, I would rather watch than most of the schlock that comes out nowadays. So there are different tiers of bad, you know? It's like, yes, this was bad writing, but it's bad several levels higher than most of the stuff that comes out, and especially things like what Disney has been creating lately. It is leagues beyond whatever the hell that is. So, yeah, it's all relative. Anyway, it was fun to finally watch it and realize what the hell's going on with this stuff. It's ridiculous that politics infests our ideas about this, about entertainment and all that so much, because there used to be a purity in that we all agreed on, that there was this merit idea of, you know, it can be a good film even if it contradicts all my political views. It can still be a good film because there are all these different things that are characteristics of a good film that we can all agree upon. And it's just really symptomatic of the politics of today, the divisiveness of it, that we don't have that agreed rubric of what great filmmaking is anymore. I think it's coming back now. I think we're heading back the other direction because people got sick of it. But Hollywood's still stuck, and we just need a new Hollywood. Anyway, yeah, that's Get Out, Jordan Peele. And let me know what you guys thought about it, and subscribe. And I will see you on the next one. All right, bye.